About Emily's monologue. Unlike the two monologues before, I really liked this one, 'cause it is so simple and fitting. It fits right in the Christian theme and works good with her plan to make Conrad take down himself. 'Cause in the end, with a full confession, he makes Emily's job much easier and makes the work all alone. About Conrad's nightmare. I really like this one. Shows again the similarities between Emily and Charlotte, 'cause now she gets revengeful as her older sister. And her outfit is cool through it is full of clichés with the black leather jacket and her red lips and fingernails. It is so over the top that you can feel something is not right here. So from first watching it I knew this could not possibly be true. If you think about the implications of this dream, Charlotte and Emily would have made a good team. 'Cause Charlotte has as much reasons to hate Conrad as Emily. He was responsible for framing her father and robbing both girls of their father. He was at least part of the conspiracy with the initiative and the bombing that killed Declan, the father of Charlotte's unborn child. Last but not least, he is the reason why Emily and Charlotte could not grow up together because of the David Clarke conspiracy. So in season 3 Charlotte would have many reasons to work together with Emily. But I assume since she is too deep entangled with her mother and could slip Emily's secret, there was no way of telling her the truth. Until Victoria was out of the picture. About Nolan's new home. I like that we see his new home bit by bit until this big event. They really spent much money for his home interior. It looks like the home of a real eccentric millionaire with vast interests and a variety of taste in art. And I love his garden with the pool and those trees. His first house from season 1 had a nice pool, too, with a beautiful view. But this one and its garden surroundings looks really spectacular. About Emily's offer of forgiveness. Another reason why Paul stands out. He is the first target Emily granted her forgiveness to. In season 2 she was struggling with forgiving her mother. Now it seems she has evolved, or maybe Father Paul and his transgressions are not so close to her as her mother's. Anyway, I love that they take advantage of every angle of this Christian topic. Now Emily plays Paul's confessor. I always loved those scenes in old movies when you see the people behind these frames, which form a nice little pattern on your face. I myself am not a Catholic, so I do not know how these confessions work. And about his actual sins. I think it works that good with him because he did just persuade those people to frame David. So he was not part of the conspiracy and certainly did not kill anyone. I am sure he also does not belong to the inner circle. So he might just not know that David was killed on Conrad's order. But they leave that in the dark for good reason. In order to make him not that bad from the beginning. So it is easier for Emily and the audience to forgive him. By the way, since the initiative came into picture, we did not see any flashback of the conspirators. With Judge Barnes in season 2 we had only seen old pictures and video footage from the trial. And in this season we do not have any flashback at all. Maybe it was due to the budget or they lost interest on the flashbacks. For me that is a huge mistake. 'Cause the takedowns may have the same guilty pleasure. But you do not have these intimate connection to the targets. Maybe because she finds more and more people who were more indirectly involved, like Pascal. And of course because Emily is focusing in Conrad and Victoria as her final takedowns. That leaves not much place for anyone else. Anyway, it is good that they succeed in taking another angle and spin on her targets, so it does not feel weary. As many were predicting when season 1 was aired, and they followed this strict pattern with one takedown once in a week. By the way, his other sin Emily used for the takedown feels just so small in contrast to the David Clarke conspiracy. I know I am not making myself very popular, but I just cannot understand why the Catholic Church is still holding on to this celibacy. It is so unnatural and caused many people harm. and might also be the reason why so little people wanna become priest. If you think about it, Paul was something like a newcomer with this career. Could they not give him some slack because he lived another more open and less strict life before he became a priest? Another thing, I like how honest she is with him. The only thing she does not share is her true identity. But all the other things are true, especially what she tells him about Formander and her own feelings and motives. And I love that she shares her red Sharpie picture with him. Makes him some kind of conspirator in her Revengenda. About Margaux Jack and Charlotte. Interesting how often Charlotte's playing with other people's feelings this season. First she plays Cupid for Jack and Margaux, and later, spoiler alert, she wants to separate Daniel and Emily by bringing him back together with his ex-girlfriend Sarah. But this pairing came really out of nowhere, much more than him and Formander in season 1. I was sure she would end up with Daniel. Spoiler alert, which she did at the end of season 3 and for most of the time in season 4. She and Jack just seem not fitting for each other. Not particular because she comes from a wealthy background and Jack not at all, like Emily points out later. They are just so different in character. She is very much determined and likes to try out new things. A bit adventurous, I would say. Something she shares with Formander. While Jack is totally different, he is stubborn and wants everything to stay as it is and does not like to try out new things, and I am sure he also does not like surprises. But I can see what attracts him to her, cause opposites attract, you say. And most of her character traits Margaux shares with Emily. The similarities between these two women and Victoria will be most clear in season 4. So I spare this for the next season. About Victoria's first attempt to stir up trouble between Emily and Daniel. I knew it would not take long until Victoria is trying again to get rid of Emily. She was maybe occupied with her other son Patrick. But now that she is working together with Aiden, she seems to think that she can finally achieve what she wanted till the pilot. To separate Daniel permanently from Emily and cut all ties with her. Using Aiden was a smart move, but we get to that scene later when we talk about Nolan's actual housewarming party. About Nolan and Patrick. After the mess with Tyler, this was no obvious choice either. Though many make fun of it on the web that Nolan is together with Man on seasons with uneven numbers like 1 and 3. And has a girlfriend in seasons with even numbers as 2 and 4. I thought he would be single for a couple of episodes. Like it was implied in the first episode with some nameless guy leaving Nolan's new home in the morning. But I guess these two handsome guys were just a too perfect match. And the relationship between Patrick and Nolan was a very good distraction from these strange vibes between Justin Hartley and Madeline Stowe. By the way, I just adore Nolan's fashion this season. His outfits from season 2 were great, but season 3 was the best. Even more as he got over the edge in the last season. His trilby hat and the vest together with that swim shorts was a brave choice. But since they have all those classic and matching colors in white, blue and a little red, this ensemble works quite good. By the way, they really get us excited for this stupid party because of Nolan's nervous preparations. Though I was very much disappointed that we saw neither real dolphins nor swans in the pool. Again, points for consistency, cause his house from season 1 was filled with dolphin sculptures. And who would forget the whale figurine and clam cam? Nolan seems to love maritime themes and creatures from the sea. About Emily's and Daniel's fight. They fight a lot in this season. And I must admit I love it. 'Cause all the hatred is just pouring out of Emily in the second half of this season. I assume she has repent a lot, so it is only natural that she finally explodes when Daniel is finally not part of her plan anymore. But till then it is Daniel who puts up the fight by finally starting to ask all those questions he should have asked a long time ago. By the way, I would love to have this white shirt of Emily. From season 1 I admire her fashion sense. Cause most of the shirts and sweaters she wears have a good quality and a special detail or pattern. Like the cable knit sweater from the pilot and season 2. Even when she wears just pants and a shirt or a sweater you can see that her clothes are expensive. And Nolan's shirt with the picture of his arrest is just hilarious. About Charlotte's little speech. I like this new improved Charlotte. She really won my heart over. Not only because she suffered that much in and after season 2. It seems as if she has emotional grown and learned something from her heart fate. So it was an even greater deception when she returned to her old pattern. By scheming against Emily and Daniel plus working together with her mother. Anyway, she is right. After Formander's death and his failed attempt to make Conrad pay for what he did, Jack put his life on hold. By the way, it is the same as Aiden did though the whole time span of the show. Besides Emily's revengender, Aiden has no life. I think it is Nolan in a later episode who says in a nice metaphor that Aiden and Nolan are the planets who circle around the sun Emily. And he is the only one of Emily's 3 men who actually tries to have a life and a healthy relationship beside her revengender. About Grayson Manor again. I love how they find new angles and new places of the manor and its surroundings. In season 2 I thought they had shown us finally everything. Cause we have seen the pool and the pool house where Daniel and Tyler lived in season 1. They showed us the kitchen and the living room from different angles in the first 2 seasons. And of course the cupola and Victoria and Conrad's bedroom in flashback and present time. And in season 2 they showed us the conservatory. Since Conrad seems to be ill at the beginning of this season, we see more of his rooms at Grayson Manor. In season 1 and 2 we merely saw his office, cause most of the time we were at Grayson Global or at the living room with him. Now we get to see the terrace and more of the vast property. By the way, I love the little chat between Victoria, Patrick and Emily. His quick remark that they met one time to many is still my favorite quote of him. And Victoria's subtle threat that she cannot wait to get to know Emily better each day was just hilarious. Underlines my assumption that we have a real agenda here. With Victoria finally uncover Emily's biggest secret by the end of this season. But again, this belongs to a far later episode. About Conrad and Emily. As I said before, I really enjoyed these scenes. If you watch them without knowing anything of the background story, you would think she is the perfect daughter-in-law. And her little hints towards confession, his sins and remorse are subtle enough so that no one would think she is manipulating Conrad. Even more, I enjoyed the looks Emily and Father Paul share. Since this is revenge, I think we all thought that this goes way too smoothly. So I believe not only me waited for the catastrophe to happen. About Charlotte being Conrad's weak spot. After the finale of this season, it was painfully clear that his daughter had always been Conrad's weak spot. Annoying enough that whether Emily nor we the audience saw this right away. Cause from the start, when Conrad got to know Charlotte is not his daughter, we should have seen this coming. More than with Daniel, Conrad considers doing things differently if they affect his daughter. And in season 1 we had numerous scenes in which we saw firsthand how much Charlotte means to him. In season 2 their relationship went south cause he stole her inheritance and Victoria used Charlotte in her war against Conrad. But this time we see him really suffering because Charlotte turned away from him, now knowing some truth about his deeds. And she even does not know the whole story. So he must truly be afraid of confession, all his numerous crimes to her. I like how Father Paul spins this. He really shows off his skills and how manipulative he can be. Something which surely will be handy for his charity work. But for Emily's case is even more helpful. His idea that Conrad is giving Charlotte her father back by clearing David Clarke's name is both sweet and sad. 'Cause he still be dead and Charlotte will never know him. If you think about it, it is already 2 years since Charlotte got to know who her real father is. But neither Conrad nor Victoria took the time to talk about David, who and how he was to their daughter. I can understand why Emily cannot talk to her about their father. But why are Conrad and Victoria not talking at least about the David they knew? At least Victoria could have opened up to her daughter. In season 1, Charlotte was so desperate to get any information about her father and Victoria just did not help her. About Nolan's housewarming party. The scenery was nice, though a big disappointment for me, though they made up this high expectations. In the end it was just a normal pool party, nothing special. If there were more excitement, bad behavior and hormones involved, you could think it was a spring break party. But I really love this song. It is one of my favorites. When it came out I played it round and round. So I must be careful not doing it again now I watch this scene. The vibe of the song and the lyrics are just perfect for this scene and for the show itself. I think it was also used on Gossip Girl. But I am not sure. 'Cause the line "you can call me Queen Bee" just screams after Blair Waldorf, the self-acclaimed Queen Bee of Gossip Girl. By the way, this one is still on my list for a music video. But I still can get my head around which SCNES I could use beside this pool party. About the outfits of Nolan, Emily, Margaux and Jack. Seems like a new theme party. This time obviously white and maritime. Emily's dress with the little jacket is one of my favorites from season 3 and the whole show. It is simple, elegant and very suitable for the occasion. Nolan's captain outfit is a nice reminiscence to his first outfit from the pilot with the captain's head. It is again so over the top that it is perfect for him. Margaux looks not special, but I think they try to show off that she is different because she comes from Europe. But I like her style. She wears very often these symmetric and geometric patterns like stripes and checks. And she is not afraid of bold colors in season 4. The only outfit I really disliked was Jack's suit. I appreciate that they tried to make something different. But for me he just looks ridiculous in this beige suit, and I was glad that we did not see that much of it. About Daniel's and Margaux's little fight. I really enjoyed their relationship cause it was always a fight between two big egos. Like I said, Margaux has many similarities with Emily. Surely the reason why both men, Daniel and Jack, feel attracted to her. I love her quote that she could go back to France and talk with her father if she wanted a man to boss her around. Daniel really has to throw the towel with her. 'Cause Margaux is far more determined and stubborn than him. About Emily's jealousy. Funny that even though she has Daniel and is mostly in a relationship with Aiden and later in season 4 with that police officer Ben, Emily is still jealous of every woman Jack dates. First there was Formander, now Margaux, and in season 4 it is Kate. Funny too that Charlotte does not recognize it. She just claims that Emily talks that bad about Jack because she thinks low of him like any other Grayson would do so. But in fact she is just jealous of Margaux because she has the chance to be with Jack while Emily has made herself stand in the corner. It seems since Formander died and made Emily promise to take care of Jack and baby Carl, she is even more protective with him. Anyway, Charlotte's quote is not entirely false. 'Cause season 3 and 4 makes it painfully clear that Emily has become a lot like Victoria during her Revengenda. Spoiler alert. And since her disguise hangs upon pretending to be a fan of the Grayson lifestyle in Season 3, she has even more reason to pretend. About Emily and Aiden meet again. This was fun, making Victoria believe she could stir up trouble between Emily and Daniel with bringing Aiden back. I really like the show Aiden and Emily put up here, and that they reveal his true intentions at the end of the episode. Though for me this charade could have lasted longer, I was relieved that Aiden is actually not betraying Emily. After all, he is the one man who never betrayed her during the show. Besides him not telling her everything, like his fight to the death with Takeda. It seems as if he is determined to keep his promise never to betray her again after he did it once during their training as Takeda's students. Anyway, it was entertaining watching Daniel and Victoria seeing Emily and Aiden fight. And how this time Daniel marks his territory. But what I enjoyed the most was the big bang Emily caused by spilling out the secret of the Graysons' ruin. It seems as if she is telling this out of anger and spontaneously. However, we all know that Emily does nearly anything without having a plan and a backup plan. So I assume this big reveal was choreographed with Aiden before he came back. And I adore Nolan's quote, "The Queen has fallen." Even though Victoria is a hate figure for both, he seems still to admire her and grant her the status of a queen. While Emily would surely refer to her as the queen of all evil. About Emily and Daniel fight again. 2 fights in one episode. You see, their relationship is going down fast. But I like the background for this fight with the sea and the waves. I assume shooting this was not so fun, and they probably had to do post-production because the sea is really unsteady. The beach with the fading light and the waves really adds atmosphere to this not so dramatic scene. 'Cause their fight is always the same. Emily tries to assure Daniel that he is the one she wants. And Daniel, unsure and not that self-confident, does not believe her. Since she betrayed him once with Jack in Season 1, Daniel seems to think this could happen any time again. Sad for him that she was engaged with Aiden behind his back the whole time in Season 2. And shows no remorse about it. Instead, she reassumes the relationship while she is playing their wedding. I must admit, even though Daniel is no innocent, the first feels sorry for him. 'Cause their relationship is the biggest fake and he invests so much in this and wants them to work. Yet Emily does not even grant them one chance. Another thing these fights show is that Emily has not that much power and control over Daniel anymore. It gets increasingly hard to manipulate him. For 2 reasons, I think. First of all, Daniel really evolved, like Nolan points out in a later episode. And second, Emily seems not to care that much about having Daniel in check. It seems as if he is her blind spot in this season. 'Cause she is so consumed by her other goals that she oversees how fast Daniel is losing his interest in her. Last but not least, Emily has changed, too. Manipulating people is easy when you do not care about their well-being. But now she opened up to Nolan and Aiden, she became far more soft. And truly cares about the consequences of her doings. So she is not that ruthless any more than she was at the start. About Nolan and Patrick. I still do not understand the conflict they made up here. Why it is such a problem that Nolan is dating a Grayson while Emily is even marrying one with Daniel. I know Patrick could just try to spy on Emily through Nolan and deliver Victoria all of her darkest secret. But does Emily has so little trust or better faith in Nolan that he would really be so careless to reveal one of Emily's secrets? I mean, they work in this together since 3 years and he was nothing but loyal to her. Even when she was really rude and bad to him in Season 1. So in my opinion, Nolan deserves some credits for this. Why should he not enjoy himself and have a little fun with Patrick? Plus he could be spying on him and through him about Victoria. Sure, Patrick could feed him with false information, but Emily could falsify them herself or through other sources. Especially now she is so tight with Conrad. And the other way around was something that actually works later. Feeding Victoria with false information through Patrick. Anyway, I see no problem in Nolan dating him. The only thing that could break here was his heart again. About Emily's phone call with Father Paul. This is one of my favorite scenes with the two. Even if Paul is not physical with her. But it is one of the occasions in which a phone call is better to talk about matters that go straight to the heart. And it is one of the very rare occasion Emily is actually crying. I think we only see her crying 2 or 3 times in every season. Besides season 4, in which she has much reason to cry. In season 1 we saw her cry in flashback when she realized that the Grayson framed her father and she found the only one who would try to help her dead in the bathtub. And of course she cried a lot in that episode Sammy died and she broke up with Daniel for the first time. In season 2 she cried when 2 of the most important people in her life died, Amanda and Takeda. And if you count that in when she told Jack that she was Amanda. In this season she cries on 3 significant occasions. First, in this scene when Father Paul reminds her what she is giving up for her revengender. Maybe because she remembers seeing Jack happy with Margaux. And realizes again that she chose revenge over her personal happiness with Jack. Spoiler alert 1. The other scene is very personal to her and her situation after she had been shot. Cause Victoria tortures her with the devastating truth that she can never have children either with Daniel, Aiden nor Jack. That might be the deepest loss to her revengender for Emily. Because it means she will never have a normal life and will always be remembered of what she sacrificed for her revenge. Spoiler alert 2. And the biggest sacrifice of all is the death of Aiden. His loss also plays a big role in the aftermath of season 3, and makes her cry a lot in season 4. Though we all know Emily will have shed much more tears off screen, but the most intimate and private crying scene this season is this one, with Emily just sitting on the swing David made and Jack fixed for her and Father Paul on the phone trying to make Emily change her life. The thing is, he is right. Emily's life would have been not only easier and happier without this revengender that constantly backfires, because of course the Graysons and especially Victoria are getting better at fighting back. Her life would also not be filled with regrets, lost opportunities and heartache cause she is losing nearly all the people she holds dear. Though it was an underlining threat in season 1 and 2. I think season 3 and 4 do a much greater job at showing us what Emily has to endure and sacrifice in order to take revenge. So in retrospect this phone call is even more sad and devastating. Because now she has still the time to change her and Aiden's future. By abandoning her plan and walking away from the Graysons and her revenge plan, she could have lived a long and happy life with Aiden and he could have made her happy. And since they have no monetary concern they could have used her and the Graysons' money to make their dream from this villa in Caprive true. Of which Aiden spoke at the end of season 2, but then the show would have been over. So all of Father Paul's words are great but useless since Emily will never stop until the last Grayson has become what he or she deserves. About Emily and Jack fighting yet again. I really hate those repeating scenes cause they make it painful clear that they both have very different moral standards and views on life. Though it is good that Jack finally can see how manipulative Emily is. I think in season 3 he is not that fair to Emily. She saved him from making that colossal mistake killing Conrad and have to spend the rest of his life in jail, while baby Carl would have become a full orphan. And instead of being thankful that Emily is making sure the Graysons get what they deserve he is constantly criticizing her. I get it that his moral standards are high. But since he wanted to make Conrad pay and plotted against this man for a great length of season 2 makes him not that much better than Emily. Even more, he wanted to kill him while Emily just wants to see him in jail. I know he is right with Charlotte. Emily is using her a lot without giving a damn, or in this case even realizing it. But all three men, Jack, Aiden and Nolan, are not that untouchable anymore. Nolan may be the least cause, he just helps Emily and has still not got his hands dirty. Aiden definitely is beyond good and evil now that he killed Takeda and shows no remorse about killing Trask from the initiative. And Jack, as I said, is not that innocent and green anymore. So I cannot understand why he is the one who constantly shows himself off as Emily's conscience. She needs this outside view, no question, and Nolan was in season 1 a good corrective. But why do they make Jack and Emily fight this hard when they are endgame? If those fights did get any bigger, they could have destroyed all hope of getting them back together even as friends. Now I realize this is a new theme that even goes over into season 4 till the very end of the show. How Emily is losing control over her allies and in general over her revengenda. Cause despite her big win at the end of this season, spoiler alert, it is Victoria and Margaux who almost take her down in the last season. At the end, with Emily's quote about Jack's bar being the right place to find a good friend, they leave on a forgiving note. Strange that they do this so seldom, but we get not that much grey shades in her scenes with Jack. It is always black and white with him. At the beginning he was head over heels for her and sensed that connection between them. Then he almost seems to hate her because she is associated with the Graysons and he cannot understand why. And now that he finally knows, and by his own statement seems to understand why she is doing all this for her revenge mission, this is also not right and he hates her even more. So again, it is very hard for me to imagine them both as a romantic couple in this and the season before. They maybe had potential in season 1 before she got that serious with Daniel. But we never saw that magic moment between them. About Victoria wanting to destroy Emily. I think in this fashion and intensity Victoria never put her hate on Emily in words. It sets the tone for her war against Emily in this season. Cause despite Conrad being Emily's main focus, it is Victoria who fights back the hardest and, spoiler alert, got behind her secret in the end. About Daniel installing a security system. Finally, a reasonable decision for Daniel's point of view. If you are not aware of Emily's fighting skills, the beach house seems awful unsecure for a fragile woman like Emily who lives alone. And Daniel seems really to be afraid of Aiden. He must have impressed him with his killing attempt. Funny that the real danger for him actually is his fiancée. Cause Emily might not have the intention to harm him, but she surely could make Daniel suffer in more ways than he and Aiden could imagine. Both physical and mentally. But Daniel has a point. Like I said in one episode about season 1, Emily is very sloppy with her gun. For her it may be a good idea to keep it handy for unwanted visitors. However, it is risky if the visitor gets a hold of the gun first. And by the way, Emily is lucky that Daniel buys the story of Aiden being an obsessive stalker. Cause he obviously draws his own conclusions when he tells her that Aiden knows the beach house and its surroundings very well. So he thinks Aiden watched her house and observed her, which is not entirely untrue. If you think of the scene at the beginning of season 2, about Conrad wanting to turn himself in. From the moment he said that, I knew this would never happen. Not only because this is only the 3rd episode of this season. It just feels so easy. How could Father Paul, no offense to his abilities, be capable of such a thing when Emily is trying this the whole time?
Even now the circumstances changed since
Conrad thinks he has a deadly disease thanks to Emily. Since he was always depicted as this strong-willed and putting himself and his survival first, I doubt that he would give in this easily. Even so, I was amused by the fight Victoria puts on, cause she fears he would drag her and his whole family down with him. She could have spared the energy. But I can totally understand her reaction to Conrad's despicable words. Even now that he is on the brink of doing the right thing and something decent, he drags this down and throws all the merits out of the window by having the guts to tell Victoria that he is giving her the love of her life back even though he is dead. That was not only rude, it shows his great lack of sympathy for anyone than himself. This is one of my favorite scenes. Not because of its plot but because of the mood and its stunning colors. This shot of Emily really wants you to travel to the Hamptons only to see these stunning sunsets. And at the same time the scene is kind of sad because she sits there all alone. But not for long. I loved the surprise by first watching it. Cause I had hoped for this since the first episode but was not sure till they told us here that Aiden was just pretending to help Victoria. For me this was the most clever trick of the two. So Emily has someone in the manor who can spy on Emily while she can pursue her plan to take Daniel away from her, without losing a source of information on the Graysons. But I was disappointed that they did not kiss. Obviously Aiden is not yet ready to be fooled by Emily again. And she has still mixed and confused feelings for him. However, I love that he still is on her side and helps her going through with her plan. And he seems to be less naive than Emily, cause Aiden does not believe that Conrad will turn himself in. Though it was again more common and felt like a different show. It was more plausible that Conrad caused an accident in which Father Paul died. I still have in mind that he maybe caused this even on purpose and only pretended to turn himself in order to get Paul to drive with him. But this would be even more despicable than blaming Father Paul for the accident. So I guess they just wanted to find an elegant way to hinder Conrad to make a confession. Otherwise Emily would not have to marry Daniel and the show would have been over yet again. By the way, I love her monologue at the end and the song choice. The lyrics are not perfect but the vibe of the song really fits the scene. And I really loved the dilemma Conrad puts her in. For she was the first on the scene and her statement will be crucial for the investigation of the accident or murder of Father Paul.